Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I'm going to review for you this little guy. This is the Pilot Prera pen, and it is a little fountain pen, and it's very interesting in that way. So first off, though, I want to thank my buddy Robo Jim for sending this guy along with a couple of other great fountain pens to check out. Thanks very much there, Robo Jim. Next thing, size comparison. Here it is against a little bit click stick pen. So you can see this is actually not a super long pen. It's a little smaller than usual. Here's another smaller pen, the Kaweco Sport, and a very small pen, the Kaweco Lilliput, which is probably my favorite everyday carry sort of fountain pen. Here it is against a Pilot G2, same company, very different kind of pen, and what the heck, a Lamy Safari over here. So anyways, let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of your Pilot Prera pen here. The good side. First off, this guy is a very nice little demonstrator pen. What I mean by that is that you can see all the way from the converter into the feed area up to the nib exactly how the ink is flowing, which makes it kind of an interesting novelty for somebody who's new to the fountain pen game or who just loves seeing their ink on a regular basis. That's kind of cool. So that's good. Next thing, the clip on this guy is pretty good in a couple of ways, except when I send it flying across the room. First off, the clip on it is actually very nice. It slides into the pocket very nicely. It has very good spring retention. Just felt right in the pocket overall. And the cap itself is nice because you get a very nice click to it. See? Pops off and then, oh yeah. Nice positive air pressure engagement. It feels like it pops in there very nicely, very securely. It's not going anywhere, but it is absolutely 100% going to pop loose when you need it to. I like the cap and the process of it very much. This feels great for a little plastic pen, especially one that's unthreaded, so that's good. That's nice. That's excellent. Yeah, I'm just going to keep giving adjectives that mean positivity. Ay, ay, ay. Well, it's been a long day, guys. Next thing, this is a nice writer. As a pen itself for writing, this is solid. It puts lines down on the paper very nicely. Here we go. Hey, everybody. And so it also has pretty good flow in that you're not going to have any interruptions or anything like that. You don't need to use a lot of pressure, and it's actually a fairly wet writer. If I do a little wetness demo there, it works nicely. And so on the whole, writing with this guy was a pleasure. It puts lines down on the paper very nicely, so that's very good. I like very much the balance of this guy. Speaking of the writing process, it's nicely balanced with the cap on or with the cap off. I almost prefer it with the cap on there because when posted, that means. It felt a little bit better in the hand, but it's nice to have that option. A pen where you can do both is a valuable thing. And so I appreciated that very much. Mind you, it might not write so well for you if you have bigger hands than I do without the cap on there because it is a relatively small pen. The thing is, though, I love that this is a relatively small pen. If we compare this to, for instance, the TWSBI Eco here, this is not so big. And carrying this little guy after the Eco, like, whoa, that's a nice change. Because I tend to do shirt pocket carry, and the Eco is a little bit big and bulky for that, both in terms of thickness and in terms of length. So this is a great little size. It's not quite down to the level of Kaweco Sport here, but it's pretty damn good. And I appreciate that very much. Next thing, weight-wise, this is pretty lightweight too, which kind of gets back to the whole size thing. This guy comes in at 0.56 ounces full, as opposed to the Eco, which comes in at 0.74 empty. That's a nice little shift there, and even compared to your stainless steel Lilliput, which is even heavier, even though it's even smaller. So this is very nice. You don't feel it in the pocket, and that's pretty excellent. So there you go. To me, at least, that's what's good about this little guy, is that it's got a nice little size. It's pretty lightweight. It's nicely balanced, whether it's posted or not. It's a nice writer. It has a very nice clip and cap with cap feel putting on there. That's excellent. And it is a nice little demonstrator, which I appreciate. Let's talk about what's great. And the great thing, to me at least, is the variety that you can get here. It's nicely designed in that you've got these nice little accents here and there. You got the little metal rings here, metal ring here. And then you got these little colored portions that you can get in different colors. You can get, purple or blue or green or whatever online. You get all kinds of different options with your Prera here. And each one of them looks pretty attractive for what it is, a relatively plasticky demonstrator pen. And putting this guy up next to, say, the Eco, it's very clear who had a little bit more of a design budget. So to me, at least, that's what's great, is that this is a much prettier pen, even though it's on the lower end of the price range. Let's talk about what's bad. The bad side, first off, the nib designation is a little weird here. This is given as a medium nib, but this is a Japanese pen, and unfortunately, Japanese pens tend to be very, very not, they're a lot finer than they're marketed as. So that's something you have to keep in mind. This is a medium nib off of the Pilot here. Let's compare this to a fine nib on a Kaweco Lilliput. Yeah, who's medium here? Who's medium? Yeah. So this is just something you have to keep in mind. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something that, as you're buying the pen, if you're out looking for a fine nib, buy the medium. Because otherwise you're going to get like their extra fine must just be like a single molecule of steel with ink down the middle of it. Well, couldn't be down the middle if it's a single molecule. Well, maybe between the neutrons or something. I don't know. I'm not a quantum physicist. But anyways, this is really fine. Next thing, the nib on this guy is a little bit stiff. I tend to like a softer nib, and this is absolutely not a soft nib. This is a steel nib, and it feels very much like a steel nib. It puts ink down fine, but if you like that softer feel, this is not the way to go. And then finally, I am not digging this internal white plastic shroud. The rest of this pen is very attractive, but then they've got this little cone of white silence going on here, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I would prefer that this part were also transparent, or that the entire cap was this whiteness. This doesn't thrill me, but that's absolutely a nitpick. In fact, I would say all three of those things are nitpicks at this price range. Whatever. Let's talk about the ugly. And the ugly here are three things. First off, this is using a proprietary cartridge type. I've got the cartridge converter in here because I don't have any Pilot cartridges, but the Pilot system uses a cartridge, unlike the standard international cartridge, which uses a much bigger end on there. And so what that means is that the same ink cartridges that you buy for every other pen in your life will not work in a Pilot pen. To me, this is just absolutely deeply ugly and stupid, because there's no reason to use a different cartridge just from one brand. Well, actually, the reason is that they want to sell more cartridges. Let's be real here. But that's, that just smacks of proprietary for the sake of proprietary. They're charging you money for something they don't need to be charging you money for. And so I find that really deeply ugly. Mind you, you can get converters, both the screw type and the squeeze type. They're possible, but that's not something that's great. The other thing I'll say is that speaking of the converter, this was not a very good fill from the converter. Dipping this guy into the ink and then trying to fill this up, I was getting a lot of air leakage, and I was in a full ink bottle. I mean, I was not doing this wrong. I've filled many converter pens. This one really sucked to do. I don't know what's up with that, but I ended up, in order to fill this guy, using it kind of eyedropper style, where I poured a little bit of ink into the open converter. And that's how I got the ink in there. It's not great at all. And so this converter wasn't very good, and unfortunately I couldn't use a cartridge because they're using a stupid proprietary cartridge, unlike the ones that everybody else in the world uses, and that's really deeply ugly. True of every Pilot pen, but it's ugly in every Pilot pen. So to me, at least, those things are the uglies. That the converter fill wasn't great, and the proprietary cartridge wasn't excellent either. Well, it's actually freaking terrible. And I don't remember if I listed the bad, but I'm not digging the plastic shroud. It's got a very stiff nib, and the medium nib is actually fine. Let's go into your final conclusions here. Look, final conclusion, this guy, in many ways, my final review, it's a nice pen. I mean, it carries nicely, it writes nicely. There's a whole bunch of good here going on, but the final review kind of hinges on the price point. It's something I haven't shared to this point. The price point on this guy is like $58. The thing is, that's not a terrible price. It's not like, oh my God, you're ripping my face off. It's not like, this is awful, I can't imagine paying that. It's certainly not value, but, it's a price. But the thing is, there are other prices that are a lot more compelling. If you were looking for a plasticky, lower-end fountain pen, I would send you towards, for instance, the Kaweco Sport. This guy's like $20. The nibs are a lot less consistent, but it is absolutely going to be a much cheaper experience, and you can get two of these for the price of one of these guys. Another great option is the TWSBI Eco here. Here you get a full-on piston filler, that is, so you're not trying to, deal with their crappy cartridge standard or their crappy cartridge converter. You get huge ink capacity, and the nib is just as good. And this is $30 here. Given it's bigger, it's a little more awkward for carry, but still. And then in this price point, you can even start getting into things like the aluminum Kaweco Sport or the metal Kaweco Lilliput. It's a little bit higher up there, but still. And in all of those cases, you're going to be using real ink cartridges rather than the stupid Pilot standard. So for me, I kind of come up lukewarm on this guy. It's a fine pen. There's a lot of good to it. But for the price, you can get a lot of really great pens. And with the proprietary standard and whatnot, it's just not thrilling me enough to send you this way. It's fine. If you're looking at one and thinking, I love the look of it, I love the style, then go ahead and get the Prera. It's going to be good for you. But otherwise, I think there are a lot of other places you should probably go first. So, hope this has been interesting to you, that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of the day, that I made the right call, and that this has been a true fountain of knowledge for you. Bye now.